May I reconvene the annual meeting of Piedmont Community Church, please? Thank you again for attending. Steve? Not quite ready? You want to do the invocation, Don?
That's what I was asked to do. Let's pray. Holy God, by your Spirit, be with us now as we contemplate the business, but more importantly, the life of our congregation, our ministry, our mission, what we're doing now, what we've done in the past year, but more importantly, where we're going. And we pray your blessing on us and through us, that we might be blessed by your gifts, that we can share your gifts of love and mercy and food, both material and spiritual, with so many people in need. And God, bless this time together in Jesus' name. Amen.
Well, at this year's annual meeting, we're going to spare you some of the extensive bylaw reviews. I know they're stimulating. I want you to know that Jeff Colton did a wonderful job working with Tony and others in the committees to help us rewrite the bylaws, but we're going to leave that for the next administration, if you don't mind. We'll roll with our, going forward, the financial review. Then we'll have various elections. And we will end with hearing from Pat and some of the committee members about the 2030 vision plan for Piedmont Community Church. Now, with the treasurer's report, there's going to be a lot of numbers. So I hope you've had plenty of coffee. But sincerely, there's a lot to go through. And if you have questions, and if we don't have time today to answer all of them, please reach out. It's been extensive, 3-month review by people putting the budget together, et cetera. And, we're giving you 5 minutes to really crunch through it all. Just a note on the elections. All of these have been brought forth by committees, so there will be no need to call for, is there a motion? You will only be asked to provide seconds. Matt?
Yep.
You ready? Yeah. Matt Webster, our treasurer.
All right. Good morning, Piedmont Community Church. Can we get the next slide, please? All right, so I'm going to walk through 3 things today. The first is how we performed last year. The second is what we expect to do next year. And then finally, I'll walk through the balance sheet and our investment portfolio. So to start off, for the last fiscal 24-25, we generated a little over $1.6 million in income against an expense base of $1.9 million. So that we had to draw down roughly $255,000 from our investments to cover the shortfall. Next slide. Now this is actually good news because we had initially anticipated that we might have to draw over $500,000 from the endowment and the cash reserves. But what happened was, I think due to your generosity, both everyone in this room as well as those out there, online, you definitely were incredibly generous this year, so we were able to outperform on the giving standards. And then on the operations side, we had a gap on the staff, so that also helped us come in under budget. And then also I would commend Steve, Don, everyone on the staff for their ability to look at their budget and really make sure that it was tight this year. So bottom line is that we had a good 24-25. We only had to pull $255,000 from the reserves. Next slide. So this is just a little bit of what I talked about just there. So next slide. Okay, so we're going to ask you to vote on the fiscal 25-26 budget. So what this is, it's an increase in revenue from the 1.6 to 1.8. Expenses will mostly be held in line, and the expected cash reserve will also be roughly in line with what we did last year. So next slide. So this is more of a granular breakdown of what we have going on. And you'll hear, this is step one, moving into what Pat and team will talk about for the 2030 vision. But really, we expect to grow giving and rental income by about 10% next year, while keeping expenses roughly in line with what we had last year. So 10%, part of that is going to be just natural inflation, and part of that is if we are able to get the new staff member on full-time. So let's go to the next slide. So this is basically saying exactly that. Next slide. So finally, I'll talk about the balance sheet. Fortunately, our church does not have any debt really and de minimis liabilities. We have a strong investment base, several different pools of assets, investable assets that we can utilize to support the church, and then we also have a strong fixed cost base of buildings and real estate that we own. Closing out, if you go to the next slide. So this really breaks down of our investable assets of the 4.7 million, which different buckets they sit in. Which you'll know is, so the endowment, this is run as a traditional endowment with a 70-30 equities and bonds portfolio. The one thing I will note about the endowment is that we aren't able to draw down as flexibly as we are with other pools of capital. So with this, there's a maximum 7% draw that we can have each year. So as you think about long-term giving, and I know this will be part of the future conversation, but as you think about trying to pull off any restrictions that you have on any monies that you give. And last but not least, the final slide. So this really is just showing that the assets, I believe, are being managed incredibly well. One thing that the investment committee did over the last 12 months was we moved away from certain active management. So this is a very simple, low-cost portfolio where we just invest in a Vanguard S&P 500 and a Barclays Ag for de minimis expenses, and that's really been able to deliver good returns for us. So this is really from July to May. The one thing you'll see is we do keep a lot of cash on hand, and so that's why we're not getting the full benefit of what has been a good run-up in the market this past few years. But in closing, I think we had a very strong 24-25. Again, thank you all for your generosity. We have a good, solid plan for 25-26, which I think will help us on our 5-year journey, and I think the assets that you've entrusted to the church and the finance committee are being well managed. So with that, turn it back over to Paul.
Any questions?
Oh yeah. Any questions before I step off? Kathy. Yeah. So the question is, where are the proceeds from the house sale? If you go back one slide. Yeah. So as you may know, we sold some real estate for roughly $800,000. That closed in April. That cash has been split 3 ways. So part of it is being reserved against next year's shortfall, and then the rest is split evenly between equities and bonds. But it's all in liquid, non-restricted accounts. So we thought that this was a good time, one, to make sure that we had the cash to cover any shortfall, but also then to try and generate a little return with the excess. Okay, any other questions? Going once, going twice. Sold. All right. Well, thank you again so much.
Thank you, Matt, and Finance Committee. It takes a lot to pull all the numbers together and to manage effectively our portfolio. So we have a vote to adopt the new budget. Do I have a second to approve? We are open for any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, I now ask to vote for approval of the budget. All in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Nay? Nay? The motion is approved. Thank you very much. Now, going forward, we're going to be electing many folks for the various positions. It takes a lot of people to run Piedmont Community Church, both involved in the missions, just putting on everything, decorations, running the various events. So if you have any desire to help, please see the nominations committee. They're the ones you really need to bend the ear for. We still need a deacon. We still need a trustee. So if you have a desire to serve on mission, any of the committees, Altar Guild, really we need your help. So the next election is for the Board of Officers. The nomination committee has nominated the following 2025-26 officers. Well represented by our experienced Pat Leischer for president. On the younger side, Zuki Todd for vice president. Our experienced Joe Geisler for secretary, and Matt Webster for treasurer. Do I have a second for the motion? Thank you. Open for discussion and questions regarding the slate of officers nominated. Yes, Ellen.
Do we get to see who the people are?
You will see them at the installation event later in the year. Okay? If you would like to stand, I know Pat's right here. Zuki's there. Matt's in back. So, may I have a vote? All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion is passed. Thank you very much. Now, on to trustees, where we still have a need. So if you have any desire, please see somebody on the committee. The nominations committee has nominated the following slate for our 2028 class of trustees. Kurt Peterson, coming back for revival. Nancy McHugh, thank you on finance. Bill Ghirardelli for Buildings and Grounds. Buildings and Grounds is a really great group. There's a lot going on. The latest project, if you haven't seen the meditation garden going on the handicap walkway, is a beautifully done project. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Judy, Wright, and all those that have contributed to the Bob Wright Memorial Fund. But that whole entryway is being reinvigorated, and Buildings and Grounds is an integral part of how that gets redone. So the trustees, do I have a second? Are there questions or other discussion items regarding the trustee nominations? Will you please stand? Kurt, Bill, I see you back there. Nancy, thank you. So, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Nay? The motion is passed. Thank you. Now, I have to flip my paper because I'm out of sequence here. So, number 4, election, the Board of Missions. We have the nominations committee has nominated the following persons to be the class of 2028 mission board. Bob Simon. Will you stand as I call your names? Is Bob here? Judy Wright, re-upping. Sui Ling, I know she's traveling. Katrina? Jocelyn? Thank you for serving. So, do I have a second for the nominations of the mission board? Any discussion or questions regarding the board? Seeing none, may I have a vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried, and thank you for your continued service. On to election number 5, the final one. The class of 2028 Board of Deacons. Now, if there's ever a group that is underappreciated, it's the deacons. So, please, we have an opening, and it would be lovely if we could really have a full deacon slate. The nominations committee has nominated the following individuals for the Board of Deacons. Carolyn Chung, re-upping. Are you here, Carolyn? There she is in back. And I know Georgia and Richard Kuchin are traveling, but they have volunteered to be a husband and wife pair, and we're looking forward to the power they bring to the deacon group. Do I have a second to the nominations committee motion? Second. Thank you. We are open for discussion and questions regarding the deacons. Seeing none, a vote to approve the slate. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. The motion is carried. Next, we have a very exciting look into the plan developed over the past year by a group of hardworking individuals. Oh, thank you, Don. Nominating committee. Now, this is the group that really puts everything together for us. The nominations committee of this year has nominated the following slate to represent us for the 2025-26 cycle. Manuel Martinez. Stand, please. Julie Wu, I think you're the, thank you, Julie. And Ryan McCorvey is coming back as a senior member. Do I have a motion, a second, to approve the nomination slate? Second. Thank you. Any discussion or questions regarding the nominations committee? Hearing none, can I vote all in favor, please? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. Now on to the Vision 2030 plan. It should be noted that we've had many plans over the years, and many have gone very slowly toward their goals, if at all. But over more than a past year, the staff and this dedicated group have put together a plan that will start us down, we hope, a 5-year plan for growth in many areas that I believe will serve us all and provide all of us significant benefits through its implementation. I would like to call on Pat to, you're going to do it? Steve, will you please present the plan?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So today we are going to alternate between video and live speakers, partly because Tom Perry, who's a member of this group, is in Ireland. So we wanted to include him, and then someone else is missing, but anyway, that's it. That's good. So we'll introduce this in the video. We'll begin with the video, but let me just say this. To thrive as a church today, you have to be very intentional about what you're doing. I've been in ministry, full-time church ministry now for 40 years. And next year is my 40th year anniversary, actually. So I know that to grow a church today, it's a lot harder than it was 40 years ago. Don was just telling me today that there's a famous sociologist from Notre Dame who's just written a book who said that traditional Christianity in the United States died in 1991 and that we're just kind of continuing to die out. So we have to do things in new ways. That doesn't mean Christianity's dead. It just means traditional has things as we've always done them. And so we want to be very intentional about what we're trying to do and have a good plan to do it. Obviously, when you do something like this, you create the plan and you pray that God will bless, because God is the one, I often say church ministry is like surfing, you learn how to ride the wave, but you can't create the wave. God's got to create the wave. And then you got to use some smarts and skills and things that you've learned to ride the wave. And so that's what we've done. We want to say at the beginning that this is, I know the other person missing is Steve Main. He's in New York, and we have him on this video too. We want to be open to changes. This is a living document, You never know what's going to happen that might give an opportunity for new ministries. And so we don't want to be so bound to a plan that we are not sensitive to the guidance of the Holy Spirit, which we celebrate today on Pentecost. So this will be a living plan. This group has committed that we will be together for 5 years to see this plan through, to monitor it, to make sure we're making progress, and all those things. So we hope that you enjoy this video and this plan. I got to say, these three members, Pat, Rich, and Tom, are just natural on video, man. We only had to do one take. They were so good. So I think you'll enjoy it. So let's just go ahead and start with the video. Well, welcome to all of you. Actually, all three different groups that we're reaching today. One, those of you who are right here in the sanctuary with us at the annual meeting. Those of you who are watching the live stream simultaneously as we have this annual meeting. And those of you who will watch this presentation later online. Welcome. Really appreciate you taking time to be here and to listen to what we have to say today. This is really important news for our congregation and the future of our church. Let me give you a little background about this group and how it came to be formed. You know, about a year ago, I just felt the need for gathering a group of trusted leaders to discuss the future of our church. We had gone through a lot of change already since 2021 and coming out of the pandemic, made a lot of progress. The mission study did a great job of looking to the future and taking a look at our needs and the needs of our community and where we needed to go. And then, if you remember, we had a number of task forces that followed up on their work and really made plans to carry out their recommendations. But even still, we faced some challenges. And I felt one challenge especially that we were facing was our financial challenge. If you remember, we took a really bold step back in 2023 to reimagine and reinvest in our children and youth ministry and their families. We called this Next Gen, and we hired Carrie Persichiti to lead that, and really made a big decision there that we were not just going to wait for the future to come up to us, but to really grab it and to intentionally think about where we wanted to go as a church. So we made that decision and borrowed a significant amount of money from or drew down on our reserves, and it became apparent to me that the drawdown on the reserves each year was not sustainable. We needed a plan to figure out how to become financially and healthy and as soon as possible. So that was really the first goal of this team, that we really take a look at our financial health and how to get to a good, healthy place. So we've been meeting now for about over a year, and I want to introduce this team to you now. I think most of you probably know them, but we have Pat Leischer, who has been past president and served many, many capacities in our church, and Tom Perry, who has served on the board of trustees, on the finance committee, and other numerous areas of the church, and then Rich Thompson, who has also served on in a number of different ways at our church, and has done a great job in all of those. Except he was also the chair of the committee that hired me, so we'll give him one mistake. So anyway, this is the team, and we just want to share with you some of our findings and our recommendations for us as a church as we move forward. So, first of all, you know, we've been meeting for over a year, and it looks like we'll be meeting for even longer than that. This team has agreed to continue serving to carry this plan through. So they've made a big commitment to this process. And so I would like you to just share with our viewers today, why? Why did you commit such a huge part of your life, really, to this process?
Well, Steve, you arrived the first year that I was president most recently, and there are two words that you brought into our vocabulary that just jumped out and grabbed me, and one was reimagine and one was revitalize. And those are the things that we need to do with our church to make it relevant and attractive and welcoming in the 2020s and beyond. So families today are busier than ever and stressed and need support of various kinds, and that is sort of the key to what the church needs to provide. We need to provide support. We need to provide help in them rearing their kids. We need to, help them with their worship and help them grow in their faith. So that's what drew me to the project.
Well, thanks, Pat. And Tom, how about you?
Well, as you said, I'd spent 3 years on the board of trustees. The last year I was treasurer. And during that time, I became acutely aware of the financial challenges we had. Not only because of the pandemic, but we live in an area that church membership has declined precipitously over the last decade or so. So I really felt we needed to look very clearly and strategically at our finances. We have a history of planning our finances year to year through budgets. And I really felt we needed a long-term plan, and I wanted to participate in that.
Yeah. I think one of the advantages, and you all know this, one of the advantages of taking a major leadership position in the church is you really find out what's really going on in the church. It's easy to come on Sunday morning and think everything is fine, and it looks fine, but behind the scenes, when you're finance chair, you see the reality of some of the challenges we face.
It's a lot more complicated.
Yeah, I often say you see how the sausage is made, right?
Right,
yeah.
right.
So, Rich, how about you?
I was captured by the spirit of the congregation. Coming out of COVID, things looked very grim. We had declining or declined enrollment, membership, attendance. We were drawing down our reserves at a rapid rate. Our pledges couldn't even come close to covering our expenses. And the path forward was really murky, to say the least. And yet, at that point in time, the congregation stepped up and took, the real easy path would have been to go inward and cut back where we could and just live off our reserves for as long as they lasted. But the congregation didn't do that. And it wasn't just the leadership. We needed the congregation to enter this game and really take it on, and they did. And they voted to support these investments, the renewal strategy, the reinvestment, and the Next Gen initiative, all of which, by the time we started our strategy work, we're showing really positive benefits. So there's a chance to build on this and really create a viable future plan for this organization.
Yeah, Rich, I remember a number of meetings where you were kind of the lone voice about warning about the financial situation and the hole that we were digging ourselves into by borrowing or drawing from reserves.
I just wanted us to be realistic.
I know you did. Yeah, and you were. It was a good voice, So now, we came to this task really focused on, at least initially, really focused on developing a plan to free ourselves from drawing on reserves each year. But very quickly we realized something else. any of you share about what we realized as we started looking at the finances and the financial plan we wanted to come up with?
Well, we realized that the financial plan is only a part of the whole. It's only a part of the entire vision and life of the church. And that working on the financial plan by itself was never going to be successful. We had to marry it with everything that's going on in the church and how, in fact, we were going to meet the needs of our congregation.
Yeah. And not just our congregation, our whole community.
Well, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, we really looked at that
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
as well. So, yeah, and how did that change the conversations? I mean, what did we really start looking at then? We started going down some rabbit holes and all kinds of things, sources of revenue and.
Well, we did. We said, okay, we have to look at other ways to create revenue besides just the pledges that come in annually. And the first thing that came to mind is we have this incredible facility and a lot of it is just empty all week. So what do we do with that? And we looked at the possibility of starting our own preschool. We looked at it seriously. We interviewed a lot of people. We had people come visit us. We looked into what it takes to get the licenses and so on. And it just turned out to be an overwhelming task, and really more than we could take on. So that kind of morphed into, well, there's a need for after-school care, growing need for after-school care that schoolmates just can't fill. They're turning kids away. So maybe we use our facility for after-school care.
Schoolmates is the program that
Piedmont Recreation Department does at each of the 3 elementary schools after school for pre-K through 5th graders.
Yeah.
So we actually were pretty excited about that possibility and invited Piedmont Rec to come over and talk to us about it and to see our facilities, whether it might work for them. And they came over and they were blown away. Most of them had no idea that the church was here or what the buildings that were part of the church or how much fabulous space we had with a gym and playgrounds and all of it. And as we talked with them, Tom and I were there talking with them, what came to light was that they know how to do the programs and we have the space. And what makes sense is for us to provide our space to them as a revenue source for the church, and they do their programming. And this had everybody in smiles because it has such potential. And we're well down the road now to putting a program in place that will start this summer with a couple of camps, but also a little preschool program called Stepping Stones. And then as we get into the fall, they'll be using a lot more of the church, more hours a week for the whole school year. And then by next summer, we'll be doing lots of camps here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that just seems like such a win-win, right?
It's a win-win-win, right? It's a win-win-win. It's a win for Piedmont Rec because they have programs they want to offer, but they don't have place to do it. It's a win for us because we have space and it can be a source of revenue for the church. And maybe even most importantly, it's a win for the whole community because it's a way to get the community onto our grounds and to see what's here. And if the kids come after school and they have fun, they might say they want to come on Sunday and bring their parents.
Well, it's just letting people know we're here. I mean, we've laughed about it, but I've told you that I've had people tell me after visiting our church that they'd lived here for years and thought it was a monastery, thought it was a Greek Orthodox church, thought it was a school. So I think just for people in the community to know who we are is a big win.
You know,
right?
it gives us a chance to change our relationship to the community.
Absolutely.
To be a part of the community in a way that we probably haven't been in 50 years.
Yeah.
And so, although finances were part of it, but personally, I saw this opportunity to integrate with the community in a new way, which is, I think, one of the most positive things we could do.
Yeah, the church has really become, not just our church, but the American church used to be the center of the community, the community life of towns, especially small towns. But in the last 40, 50 years, it's become more insular. And detached from the community. And this was part of the mission study findings was, hey, let's become part of the community. Let's serve our community. And boy, what a great way.
Well, we are right here in the middle of the community.
We are.
We couldn't be more central.
In the heart, yeah. Yeah. Rich,
Well,
anything you
yeah,
want-
sure. What struck me as we worked on into this was the complexity of Piedmont Community Church. All the directions that it was providing support, inspiration, guidance to so many different elements. We chose to call them constituencies of the church. And I want to emphasize to the congregation that we worked on being sure that we were covering the needs, desires, requirements of all in the church, as well as looking at the community, as you guys were talking about. But there's a lot going on here, and if we're going to have a strategy, it needs to cover all the dimensions of the church, which we delved into at great length in each case.
Yeah, and I think what happens sometimes when you do set clear priorities, which we did through the bold step that we took with our Next Gen ministry, it feels like you emphasize that and you forget everything else. But and you have to a certain that you have to prioritize it to get it done because it's a big goal and a lot of work. But we really wanted to make sure people were not forgotten.
You know, Steve, before I retired, I ran a research institute for 25 years.
Yeah.
And as chief executive, I was responsible for the financial health of the organization. But it was quickly apparent that you can't do that in isolation. If you don't have a vision, if you don't have programs to support that vision, if you don't have a strategy to tie it all together, you're not going to succeed. So although I initially was focused on the financial side of this, it quickly morphed for me into a much bigger and more integrated whole that we needed to focus on here.
Yeah, we really developed not just a financial plan, but a strategic plan, a new vision for our church, what we want to be 5 years from now, what we want to look like, what we want to feel like, right? And we'll continue. This is a living document, obviously, that we'll continue to work on and be open to things that arise that we never thought of, but definitely a map that can take us where we want to go, right?
You just mentioned really for the first time that this is a 5-year project.
Right.
It's not 1 year or 2 years. I mean, this is a 5-year project to reach the place where we are financially stable and no longer drawing on our reserves unless we do so for a new initiative. And in the process, we are bringing new constituencies or adding to our constituencies and meeting the needs of the people in our community.
Yeah. And I think the challenge we all felt and continue to feel, and I think will feel as these 5 years come toward us, is we want to continue to create, to be bold, to try new initiatives, which usually have some kind of financial element to them, and yet at the same time try to draw down this gap that we have between what we raise and what we're drawing from reserves, right? Which is a challenging place to be, I think.
But lucky, we're fortunate to have those reserves to work with.
Yes, we are.
That gives us the breathing room
Yeah,
to, in
yeah.
fact, make the necessary changes.
And thank you to our forebears who
Yes,
left this
exactly.
money to the church.
Absolutely, and I always say, well, they left the money to the church to help the church thrive.
That's right.
And so that's what we're trying to do.
And I think I would emphasize, you said it, but just to put a pin in it, all of us realize and welcome that there are going to be changes as we go along. And that's why we've signed up for 5 years, is we know the 5th year isn't going to look like it looks from here.
Right, right. So we have this big vision that we've come up with, the strategic plan, and now I'd like to share it with the congregation. All of this, it's about probably too long, 13 or 14 pages. So you can pick these up after the meeting today. But what I would like to do right now is just highlight the vision that we have written, the kind of a vision statement for the next 5 years of our church. And what I'd like to say is this really builds on a lot of work that has already been done. I mean, we've made tremendous progress in 4 years. You know, the mission study came up with great recommendations. They did really good work. We have built upon that, and this builds upon that. And then we had task forces. We had 4 or 5 task forces that took different areas of the church: spiritual formation, mission, next gen, all these different important areas of the church, and came up with recommendations for us to carry out some of the recommendations of the task force or the mission study. And we've been working on that for 4 years and have really made some really good progress. There's a lot of signs of good things happening. So this will be, I'll just highlight our vision. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. You can read it. It's in here. And then for each of these areas of the vision, we also have 5-year ministry goals. And I'm not going to go into those. I'll highlight maybe a few, but you can see these goals that we have. And again, I would say this is a living document. We can add to these things. We can change things. We're totally open to, but it's a map. So here's our vision. We want to be a church for, and the first thing I would say is we want to be a church for inspiring worship. Can you read that okay? Is that big enough for you to read? Good, okay. So worship is the heart of our church. It is what brings us together. It's our main task. We want to see, or we want to really have inspiring worship in the next 5 years, as we do already, but also to branch out into new areas. So here's the statement: encountering God through vibrant preaching and uplifting music, inspiring people to worship God, not just on Sundays, but in their daily lives. So we want worship to be a place where you get encouraged to go out and then I often talk about the church gathered on Sunday and then the church scattered during the week. We hope to inspire you and equip you to be the witness of Christ out in the world. Some of the things that we would like to see happen in worship over the next 5 years. In fact, we have a goal for 2026 in the fall of starting a second service. And this would be a service that is different in feel and music and kind of format than what we have in our present service in the sanctuary. It'll probably be over in either the chapel or the gym. We're really leaning toward the chapel. This would be more of a contemporary service especially in terms of music, but a little more casual, trying to reach out to people that maybe aren't used to the formal traditional service that we have here in the sanctuary. So that's the big lift. We hope that our service here gets up to about 200 people. Right now we're averaging about 160, 165. We hope by then it'll be 200 so that when we start the second service, this one doesn't feel like it's empty from people going over to the other service. Part of this is to also provide a worship service for the many volunteers that work in Next Gen during the first hour. So we want to hire a contemporary music worship leader, which will be the biggest hire that we have in this plan over the next 5 years. But that person just won't do that, but also help Steve Main with all the worship activities of our church. We realize that people have very busy lives, and Sunday is sometimes not the time for them to come to worship. So our hope is eventually to have a worship service during the week, maybe more of a contemplative worship or something that people can attend. But the second service will be on Sunday mornings. Second thing, but the big goal here is, and Steve talks about it later on in the service, we want to be known throughout the Inner East Bay as a church that has a tremendous music program, especially for sacred music. Second thing we love to do is to be a church for authentic community. So here's the statement: experiencing authentic community, a place to belong and grow where deep relationships are built, faith is shared, and people of all backgrounds are welcome, valued, and supported. one of the things we've noticed, especially in the last few new members classes, and just with conversations I have with people outside the church, is people are yearning for community today. You know, I don't know if you heard about it, but the Surgeon General, not the present one, but the one that just was done with his term back in November or December, said that loneliness is a critical health concern for our country, if not the biggest one. That we are becoming increasingly isolated and lonely. So we feel like, you remember in my sermon I said, you can see it as a crisis or an opportunity. Here's an opportunity for the church to offer people real, authentic community where people can really get to know each other. In my small group last week, as we evaluated life groups this last year, person said, this is the first time in my life I've experienced I can be my authentic self in a group of people. That's what we're searching for, that kind of support. Third thing is a new ministry. We've talked about it a little bit already, but it is compassionate care. And here's the statement: walking together through every season of life with love and support, and I want to emphasize every season of life, with love and support, offering hope, encouragement, and practical help to those facing challenges, joys, and everything in between. This wasn't a task force so much, but over the last 4 years, we've noticed that we can grow in our care ministries. And so this is a whole new undertaking to really equip lay people to have some ministries where we can care for people who are going through various challenges in their lives, but also just people who need care. And so this is kind of raising our love quotient is what this ministry will do. Don has had a task force this last year looking at it, and so we will launch that next fall. The next one is the next generation, placing high value on the growth and nurture of children and teenagers, equipping them to face today's unique challenges with a solid faith, strength, hope, and empathy. All very carefully chosen words. This is, as you know, been our biggest undertaking these last few years and will continue to be over the next number of years. Honestly, I want to see this as a way to grow the church, but more than that, I feel like our kids today need, they need a place. I was a youth pastor for a long time. I have a heart of a youth pastor. I'm going to retire and become a youth pastor again. These kids, they need a place where they're loved for who they are, not for all the ifs, and where they can make friendships. Carrie and her team just came back from a conference in Atlanta on Next Gen ministry, and they said, probably one of the most important things we can do as churches today is to help our kids learn how to build friendships. That because of the pandemic and social media and other things, they just don't know how to do that really anymore. So we want to have a place where they can come and grow in their faith, have a solid foundation, and also have true, authentic community, just like we do as adults. Next one is meaningful service. We want to be a church for loving those in need by serving with mercy, advocating for justice, and partnering with them in humility. Again, this is, I think, one of the strengths of our church. We want to build on that strength. We have great mission partners with City Team and Harbor House and Children Rising already. In the next 5 years, we hope to establish 3 partnerships internationally and develop those relationships, as well as help move our congregation out into the community and serve. If there's one thing that I would say really typifies or really characterizes this vision statement is we are moving out, from the church out into the community, which is what the church really should be doing, but hasn't for many years. So again, meaningful service is important. The next one is spiritual growth. And here's the statement: offering multiple opportunities for spiritual growth and transformation, meeting people wherever they may be on their spiritual journey. And this was one of the recommendations of the mission task force that we built upon. We now have a spiritual formation team that plans many different activities to help people grow in their faith. And we want to be a place where people can come and talk about issues of faith and grow. And the life group ministry has been probably the most important part of that so far. And, we had a 50% growth in our life group ministry this last year, primarily through online groups. And so we want to continue to grow that ministry. It's been very important for the people involved. But we have other things like Women Together, planning some more retreats, a number of different things. And then lastly is kind of a new thing is empowering leadership. We have noticed over the last few years that we don't do a great job, and this is on the staff, to be honest with you, we don't do a great job of training volunteers, letting people know what they're really getting into when they volunteer for something, equipping them, celebrating them, helping them discover their gifts, and to really find joy in their ministry roles in the church. So that is all part of empowering leadership, where the pastors and staff empower the lay people to really do the ministry of the church. So that's the vision. It is really what God calls the church to do and to be honest with you. And so we hope we can fill out those goals. So we'll talk about this a lot more in the year to come, and there are detailed plans here in the report. So I'm going to leave it at that and call up Pat Leisher to share the financial goals and plan. Also, I want you to know what? No, this is good. Oh yeah, you're right, Michael. You're right. We have a video of Steve Main and Carrie and Don sharing their excitement about their parts of the vision. So we'll look at that first.
When I think about the next few years at Piedmont Community Church, I'm really excited about a lot of things that we're currently doing and things that we're looking forward to in the next 4 or 5 years as we approach 2030 as a church. For example, congregational care has been a passion of mine, how to care for one another, especially for people who are in need in some way, a hospital, they're sick, they've lost a loved one, and also for the folks who we might have called in the past shut-ins, but people who aren't able to come to church for whatever reason. We have a team now called the Congregational Care Team that was set up by the Board of Deacons that I'm serving on. And we've come up with all sorts of ways to reach out to people that we haven't seen for a while, and some of the people that perhaps are watching us online but are not able to participate in worship. We're looking for new ways to reach out to them as well. What we want to do as best we can is to help foster and create a church where we really are much more intentional and much more effective in terms of caring for one another. Another thing I'm really excited about is our service opportunities that are sponsored by and facilitated by the mission board that, remember, we got it started last year. And so we've been meeting now for a year as a board, a new board, and we've come up with all sorts of ways to help people get involved in service beyond the walls of this church. And perhaps the thing I'm most excited about going forward is our increasing engagement with all sorts of folks in small group ministry and in spiritual growth and all these kinds of avenues for us to keep growing together as a community and as individuals. So for example, you've probably heard of, or maybe you're participating in one of our life groups. We meet on a weekly basis, and now, in addition to the in-person gatherings, we have 2 online life groups that meet weekly. We have over 70 people involved on a weekly basis in these groups, and including other groups too. And what we would love to be able to do in the future is get 50% of our worshiping congregation to be involved in a life group. And we're almost there, we're getting there. So I'm just really excited about how that's been growing and how people have been growing themselves. And also the Women Together ministry is a ministry that we started about 1.5 years ago. And that has been going so well with a women's retreat and periodic gatherings of women in the church. And on my last time I checked, about 60 women have been participating in that on a regular basis. This is in addition to affinity groups that we have, as well as the men's Bible study and other groups that we have. So many people are finding ways to connect, to grow in their faith, to grow in their connection to God and the Spirit, and hopefully that growth allows them to grow as individuals, to be able to love and serve and share the good news in their lives, not just with their words, but also with their actions.
Over the last 2 years, we've been hard at work building a solid foundation, welcoming new families, building real and relevant and exciting biblically centered programs, and building a solid, dedicated, passionate team of volunteers who make it all happen. We are so excited about what's coming ahead. But first, I want to celebrate some of the things that have already happened. We have a thriving middle school midweek program with 16 dedicated students. This 1 hour is filled with small groups and discussion and large group teaching and games and connection. Students aren't just showing up, they're actually inviting their friends, and we're excited to see what's ahead. We also want to celebrate the 13 students who were confirmed on Palm Sunday. This is a direct result of our midweek program. 7 of those students were actually baptized too. So God is clearly working through their lives. We are excited also to see what's coming. We have a volunteer resource center that we're developing for our parents and volunteers that will give them real tools to better serve their students and, as a parent, help them parent through all the ages and stages. We're also in the process of hiring a new student ministries director. This person will be a massive add to our team. They will be serving our middle and high school students within the framework of our Next Gen ministry. So please keep that in your prayers. And our staff is in the early stages of working through what a new second contemporary worship service might look like. This will be a huge boost not only to our community, but it'll also provide a huge boost to our Next Gen program.
So when I think of the future of Piedmont Church, one of the best things about it is that although we've got a lot of plans, a lot of the things that we're planning are already things that are underway. So for instance, you may have noticed if you've been coming to worship that, and I hope you've been coming to worship, that the choir has many, many new faces. A lot of them are younger faces. They come here because they're excited about doing music that's grand, music that's intimate, music that's different from what a lot of churches might do. And yes, I'm excited about all the musical parts of that, but one of the things that I noticed recently that really excited me in a kind of a different way is right after a rehearsal, I noticed some of the younger and newer members sharing text messages and sharing phone calls together and just getting to know each other. And it reminded me that one of the things that we're doing here, apart from growing a great music program, is providing people a forum where lifelong friendships can happen. And that's a big part of what we do here. So that's really exciting. Another thing that's exciting for me is that we have a new and even kind of increased emphasis on instrumental music. And so you've probably noticed that I think every other Sunday I'll try to have a clarinet or a cello or a trombone or a violin, something like that, that augments and sets apart the music that we're doing that day. And that's really different because in a lot of churches, what you have is you have piano and organ and the choir, and maybe you have handbells. But you don't tend to go much off apart from that unless it's a really special occasion. And one of my aims would be to have that special occasion be more than just every now and then, but really be something that we do all the time. Not just so that we can get in great professionals who actually increasingly really love to play here, but also to use the talents of a lot of our own members who may not be in a position to sing in a choir, but boy, have they got gifts to give here. And so I would love to do much more with them, do more arranging, more composing for them, and really kind of write to their gifts and show off the talent that they have. So that's really exciting for me as well. We're doing lots of new music. We're doing lots of new hymns, exploring new ideas. We're talking about a new service, a second service. We're in the planning stages and kind of the dreaming stages of what that looks like. But where for a lot of churches that often can mean sort of dividing people up into two groups, that's really not how we're thinking of this. We're thinking of this as one church with many kinds of music offerings, the thing that ties the two visions together, and really that ties the whole music program together, is excellence. We would love, and we think we're on the way, to create here really a center of musical and sacred music excellence in the Bay Area, maybe even Northern California.
We'll have a time of question, Q&A. So if you have a question, hold on to that and we'll have that later. But Pat, come on up.
Is everybody still awake? There's a couple full pages in the Vision 2030 booklet that you'll get on the way out on the comments on the financial plan, and there's the detailed financial plan is in there as well. In light of everything that's been said, I'm going to cut my remarks today way down to the minimum. So I'm going to put some numbers in front of you. You don't have to remember any of them. They're in the program. Some of them are up here. This slide is a summary plan, and there we have several categories that go in here. Can you just show the other slide quickly, Michael? Yeah, so I'm going to just quickly go through this, the categories with some minimal comments, and then if you have interest, I'm happy to talk to you afterwards, and we can expand on that. So you have heard that about a year ago, the Vision 2030 committee was formed to do a 5-year strategic plan. And to our knowledge, Piedmont Community Church has never had a comprehensive financial plan. And the decision was to be proactive, not reactive. And in the past, we took this year's budget and we built next year's budget on it, and we funded shortfalls by deficits. You've heard a little bit about this morning. That the church has been drawing on reserves to fund these deficits for several years. Clearly, funding deficits cannot go on indefinitely, right? That's pretty obvious. And no one wants to cut staff or programs to match current revenues with operating expenses. That would put us in a death spiral. We don't want to do that either. And the 2021 Mission Study Plan report made it clear that the congregation wants the church to grow and thrive and not merely survive. So we built a financial model. We can just go back to that, Michael, quickly. And we put it through literally dozens of iterations with different levels of membership growth, giving, operating expenses, and so on. And we evaluated a number of new revenue opportunities, most of which we had to say, no, it's not going to work. And we tightened the numbers on giving and members and things until we achieved revenue cost break even by June 30th, 2030. And if you'll see on there, I think in the last year we have a tiny surplus of $18,000. Just going through quickly the assumptions that we made in the model, because I think they are reasonable and defensible. That was a goal of ours, to make sure that, we weren't just throwing pie in the sky in front of the congregation. We have membership growing 5% annually, which is actually lower than it has been the last couple of years. We had pledge giving growing at 5% a year from existing members, and we split out new members and started them at a lower level and had their giving grow at 3% a year. And then the non-pledge giving we also had grow at 3% a year. So these are all pretty sober numbers, I think. And then we had expenses climbing at 6% annually. And this was not only because we see some other people coming on board, as Carrie mentioned, the Director of Student Ministries. We also talked about a halftime hospitality chairperson. Those are in this year's budget, the one that was approved. But we also want to make sure that we can fund some new programming as it comes to light, whether it's the congregational care ministry that Don talked about, or additional next-gen funding as that program continues to grow. And we also plan to do more regular marketing. This church does so much, and the community doesn't know about it for the most part. We advertise at Easter and we advertise at Christmas, but we're going to start advertising special music Sundays, kinds of things that Steve just talked about, next-gen activities, service projects that the community can join in. There are people out there looking for a church home. Some of them are new to the area, and some of them are people who are at existing churches that are declining and canceling programs and maybe even closing. And we want those people to know that we're here and that we welcome them. As Matt Webster mentioned, we can transfer from our various reserve accounts between 5% and 7% annually, so that is a category of income. And then, this has also been talked about, we have two new, really exciting new sources of income. This Piedmont Recreation program has the potential to grow dramatically. It's going to start in a week, which was news to poor James Haverkamp this morning. But we've included some fairly conservative numbers for how that program grows, because they have more programs now that don't have space, and they have lots more ideas for programs that they want to do. And some of them, lots for kids, but there's some for adults as well, like an evening class that might run once a week for 6 weeks, something like that. This got said before, and I say it again because I just believe this is so true, that using our beautiful facility that sits empty so much is a win for us, and it's a win for the recreation department that can put on more programs, and it really is a win for the whole community. As more of the community comes onto our premises and starts to get familiar here, we'll see what happens. We've also included a category of what happened here? Sorry. Oh yeah, okay, a category of legacy and large gifts. Just this current year, we've received $125,000 in this category, and we're that's the starting point in next year's budget as well. We've been receiving these for several years, and most of it is cash, but we've also received real property from someone's will. So we forecast this category to grow 20% a year as we acquaint the congregation with the opportunities here. And those opportunities include special giving opportunities, and you'll see towards the back of the program, some of them are listed. These are just things that the church wants to do, and they're listed with totals for the project, but you can give $5 or $5,000 or whatever you want to these projects. And they include things like refurbishing the kettlewell room, equipment and chapel upgrades for the contemporary service, enhancing the sound system in here, new irrigation and drought-resistant planting in our gardens. And again, you're welcome to donate any amount to an area that is meaningful to you. One new expense category has been added, and that is the second service. It's been mentioned, you know sort of what's going on there. It's going to start in about 15, 16 months, September of 2026. The amounts in our budget cover personnel for that program, and startup costs will come out of the special projects budget, things like screens and speakers and sound system and so on. I do want to note, especially for the people that are here today, that our traditional worship service is not morphing into a contemporary service. The traditional service is really cherished by many of us, and it will remain the same at 10 o'clock, the same format, music, sermons, prayers, etc. And I've had a couple of comments, people saying, why is there all the focus is on next gen? What about me? Well, we want you to know that our longtime members are very, very important, will not be forgotten or left behind when the new service is added or anything else here happens around the church. Okay, so I'm going to try and net out these numbers. To execute this plan takes $943,000 out of our reserves. Right now, we have about $1,075,000, but not all that money gets used year one, so some of it will continue to earn interest, and we're guessing that we'll have about $300,000 in the cash reserves fund at 2030, and an additional $850,000 or so in, additional $540,000 in special projects, so that's about $840,000 in unrestricted reserves. So even after we spend the 943, we still have some reserves. In addition, we'll have almost 1.3 million in restricted reserves. So we still will be in good financial shape. Again, I'll just come back. It's a 5-year strategic plan. Actual results will absolutely differ from what you're seeing now. We'll update it every year. We'll monitor it during the year, and we'll include course corrections as is necessary. From sitting in all these meetings with Rich and Tom and Steve, we're really confident in this plan, that it's realistic, we've been conservative, and it can be accomplished with the participation and commitment of the congregation. So if you have other questions, because I went through this pretty fast, please don't hesitate to ask, and we just ask that you join us on this exciting journey. Thank you.
Okay, now we have some scintillating closing comments from the team, and then we'll take questions and answers, or Q&A. I want to, as we wrap this up today, I want to make sure I thank you for all. As we wrap this up today, I want to make sure I thank you for all the time that you've put in to meeting together for this past year. It's really one of the joys of ministry to work with such talented and creative and committed people, and I thank you for your commitment to our church and to Christ. So we're kind of wrapping this up now. Any final thoughts that you would like to communicate to the congregation as we close this up?
Sure, I'll kick that one off. I've really been heartened by the resilience of the church and its congregation, and really encouraged by the progress we've seen under your leadership. Steve, I'll give you a big thank you and kudos on that. As we see the attendance growing, we see the broad engagement across the congregation, we see the energy level, and just sort of the fun of people here at church. Of course, a very serious undertaking for all of us, but also with a little fun on the side adds to it. And without going into any numbers, I'll just cite the fact that Barb and I are traditional late arrivals, and we haven't been able to have a bulletin for about the last 6 times we've come to the service. And all this gives us is a foundation. We now really have some momentum to build upon and create the kind of a sustainable, vital future that we all hope for the church, and that's been our job.
Yeah.
Well, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think sort of the rule of thumb is that when your sanctuary is 70% full, 2/3 full, something like that, it's time to consider a second service. And there's been conversation about this for the last year or so, and with increasing importance, intensity, focus, whatever. And so one of the things that we are planning in this strategic plan is to add a second service. And it will be a different kind of a service. It will probably start in the fall of 26, yes? And
That's our hope.
Yeah, that's today's plan.
Yeah.
That it'll be a more contemporary service, because a lot of younger people that have grown up in churches elsewhere are accustomed to a different kind of service with more casual, different kind of music, and so on. So we'll look to have a second service that's like that. But at the same time, we're not transitioning from a traditional service to a contemporary service. No, definitely not. We will continue to have our traditional service, which is so dear to so many of us, with the traditional music and the traditional order of worship and so on, because we'd like to have something that appeals, a service that appeals broadly to different segments of the community. And that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about this as kind of being the second stage of next gen, really.
Right. Yeah.
That providing a service that's really attractive to the parents of kids who are from another generation, obviously, and even teenagers and our younger people. Yeah, we're really excited about that. And that'll be a big lift. Yeah. Anything else Tom, you?
You know, I've been thinking about, I'm an optimistic person by nature, I think,
Right.
but I look at the future with great optimism here. And I do that because I think the church is ready to meet a variety of needs of our congregation to support each other, not only in times of sorrow, but joy, to help families create healthy children, both physically as well as spiritually, and to help them move into the challenges of their lives with a strong base, to help those in need, to share our faith and grow our faith, and have older members share their faith and their experience with younger generations, and quite simply to enjoy our life together. And if we can do those things, I think we've got a wonderfully bright future here.
Yeah, bright future and also a unique future, to be honest with you. Most churches today are generational churches. They're appealing to this generation or this generation or this generation. And what we're trying to do is have a church that is multi-generational. So it's not an easy thing to do. And Rich, I think you're right. We've begun, we've laid a foundation, but wow, there's still a lot of work ahead, a lot of steps of faith ahead.
But you know, Steve, if I had young children today, given the challenges and the statistics that we see about depression and anxiety, I would be looking for a place to help me support my child in developing a healthy outlook on life and the ability to be strong and resilient in the face of all the challenges. And the church has to be a key part of that going forward. I think we've just got such a wonderful opportunity.
Well, Tom, you shared with us that podcast that you listened to. You want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was such an interesting podcast. I'm very involved in political thought and discussion, and one of the podcasts I listened to had an author, and he said, my biggest mistake I made as an author 15 years ago when I was saying what a great thing it was that the U.S. is becoming more and more secular. And he said, I was absolutely wrong. What we need is a strong church in the traditional way of Christ's teachings. Correct. He said, one of the things, you can't find meaning in life through politics. The church can be and should be a central point in finding the meaning of your life and what allows you to go through the valleys of life and still maintain a positive attitude. It was a wonderful, wonderful thing to listen to.
And have a community to walk through those valleys.
Absolutely.
With you.
Absolutely.
And I think in closing, I would say that one of the things that became apparent to us, and things have changed a lot even in the last year since we've been meeting, right? Both in our church and in our culture. But one of the things that it seemed to me, we had a growing awareness that we're just not talking about institutional survival, right? We are talking about something bigger than that. And that's the mission, the purpose, the ministry, whatever you want to call it, that God has given to us. And my prayer is that we would become a really strong church for this community, to be the salt and light that we've talked about in the Sermon on the Mount, bringing out the best in in people and our society. And so the good thing about that is God calls us to a mission, but he doesn't leave us to do it alone. That he has given this mission, and he'll give us the power to do it. So I think going forward, we can be confident both in the strength of our congregation, but even more so in the strength and the faithfulness of God as we undertake these big challenges ahead. Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Primarily the second service, and yes, that's the bump. That's the big lift in the next 5 years. Yeah. Yeah, Eric.
There are two Asquith funds, and one is specifically for music, and they're both restricted. So the music one, we just get the 5 to 7% a year, which goes into the general budget. The other one is also restricted, and it can be used for staff bonuses, is one thing it can be used for. So, for example, for this fiscal year, we didn't give any raises to any of the staff, but we did set aside out of the Asquith Fund $25,000 that could be allocated as bonuses for outstanding achievement, which we did use over the course of the year. We gave everyone a bonus at Christmas, and we gave a couple of other bonuses, I guess 3 other bonuses during the year for outstanding performance. We also take the fees and the matching on the 401k plan that we set up for employees. We take that out of the larger Asquith Fund.
Other question? They're fired up. Come on, Pat, they're not exhausted. They're fired up.
We've got one here.
Yeah, who's this? Oh, Dottie, yeah.
I hope I phrased this correctly. While the federal government seems to put less emphasis on education, are there plans for adult education in the church? Not only for children, but for adults to strengthen our faith, strengthen our living?
Yeah, so the question is, are there plans for adult education? There are, and they're in the plan that the booklet, yeah. There are a number of things in there, and we're open to doing more things. But yeah, that's definitely something as we move forward. Yeah, Joyce, good to see you back.
Yes, we've been away
Yeah.
10 days. But my question has to do with the international mission and the vision for that. Maybe it's a point, maybe it's a question. I would hope that one, the continent we focus on is Africa. Because we did have a relationship with Malawi, and it's a hope. And I wonder if any thought has been given to where the international mission might go.
I think there has been some thought given to that, and I would think that Africa would definitely be one of those partnerships. I can't guarantee that, but in my mind, that's a pretty sure thing. Yeah, we're excited about these new. We're not sure if we can continue the relationships with Malawi or something else, but certainly Africa is key. Anything else? Yeah, Bill.
Particularly hard in light been any discussion about using the facilities for performing groups, for example, one for the space? To bring people in to show them the facilities, to use the chapel, and perhaps a dome hall, perhaps a kettlewell room. Any discussion on that?
I'll take that. I would say, I'll just speak loudly. I would say no, or little, and it's a great thought, Bill. So we'll follow up with you on that. We have to be a little judicious as we pursue uses of the facility because there's such enthusiasm from our initial one with the rec department that we're rapidly using up our, quote, vacant facilities. But I think we'll have plenty of room, and I think you have a great thought there.
And we have, not for performances so much, but we have been using the sanctuary for different things this last year, for showing the film on Join or Die about the need for community, the Robert Putnam book. And a couple of weeks ago, we had that presentation on climate change. And so we are thinking that way. And I think that's part of Steve's bigger plan about becoming a hub for music. Is I think that could definitely tie in, but great question. Yes, Ellen. No, you don't have to stand up. Yeah.
Well, I'll stand up.
Okay.
I was just wondering, sort of similar to what you were saying back there about Africa, and then also how you had said in past times how the Catholic Church is growing right now with a lot of Hispanics. I would like to see our church have, I don't know what you call it, more interracial. I mean, I know, like, I'm from Norway, and there's probably from people from Ireland, and there's people from all different places, but we're still white. And I would like to see more people of color in this church.
Me too.
I'm wondering how that happens.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Yeah, I would love to see that too. I think it's
Hispanics, or
right.
we have those people that you're sponsoring that are from, where's that place?
Ukraine.
Where?
Ukraine.
Ukraine?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I'm just wondering how that happens.
Yeah, that's definitely been part of my prayer for our church. And I think we've seen it slowly happening. I don't know if we've done intentional things about it, but I have definitely been praying that way. And I would, and I think it's part of our goal of reaching out beyond Piedmont and becoming a church for the greater area, because we're not a reflection of the greater area within 4 or 5 miles of our church. So, yeah, maybe we can think through that a little bit, but definitely would love to see that happen, to become a more diverse church and reflect our surrounding community. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. want me to take it? So let me see if I can get all three. One, we have been reaching out to new families. Last August, Next Gen, some folks from Next Gen put welcome packets, little gifts on the door, doorstep of a number, I think it was 50, 60 families in Piedmont, and who have recently moved here. So that has been done, and we'll do it again this year. As far as increase in mission giving, would love to see 10. My goal is that eventually 10% of all our income goes away to our mission partners. But that's we'll have to build slowly towards it. But that's definitely in the plan that you'll see. So did I answer all the questions? Yeah. Okay. Maybe one more, and one last thing. A good number of the new families in our Next Gen program, especially, I don't know the exact number, are Asian families, which has been really encouraging to see. Probably, what do you think, Susie? 30, 40%, 30%? Yeah, it's been significant. Yeah. Okay, and that is a lot. You're right. A lot of Asian families are moving into Piedmont. Yeah. I think one more, and then we'll be done. Anybody else? Yeah, Susie.
As we see some human rights going away all around us for people that we are saying that we need to care for, how will we as a church going forward address that elephant in the room when people that we know are being deeply affected by our political situation now?
Great question. Maybe you can lead a team to take a look at that seriously, because it's an important thing. And we did not discuss that. But it's great question. We have a lot of things to deal with. Okay. I think that's it. Paul, I'll let you close up our meeting.
I would like to thank the Vision 30 team for bringing together all the different initiatives we've had at the church developed over the last few years into a coherent plan. And with staff and all of our help, we can move them forward in implementation. If I may, I would like to thank my outgoing staff members or committee members.
Yeah, and they'll also be thanked in the board meetings, various board meetings.
And in the annual report are all the yearly summaries from the various committees that you can read. So we didn't have those oral presentations this year. So please look for them all in your annual meeting hard copy. So I'd like to really thank outgoing trustees, James Haverkamp, for a wonderful job in so many ways. Vicki Kendrick as chair of Buildings and Grounds, as we've really implemented so many new improvements here. Ann Lynn for her continued, not just in stewardship guidance, but she's been my shadow president this year. Kurt, both coming and going, so he's going and returning for at least a year to help us with personnel, Kurt Peterson, and Maureen Rucker retiring. From the Board of Deacons, Sui Ling Chen is moving on to the Mission Board. Gary Montague, irreplaceable, and Dana Colton. Thank you all. The Mission Board Chair, Mike Bendrowski, and Mary Fielder have stepped down. Judy is re-upped, as has Katrina Bergen, so thank you very much for that. And then finally, the Nominations Committee, which has done wonderful work for us, Eric Behrens, Julie McDonald, and Linda McLean. Great job. Thank you for all your efforts. Other than that, I think, Steve, we'll be having small gifts sent to each of you over the next month, but I think we're on to the benediction.
Okay, how about we stand and let's join hands if you can with the person next to you, and let's close in prayer. God, we're thankful for our church. We're grateful for the many years that it has been at the heart of this community and surrounding areas. We thank you for your faithfulness to us. We thank you for the new life that we've seen these last few years that encourages us as we move forward and we dream about the future. God, may we be creative in how we present your timeless gospel. The good news that you are a God who loves us beyond anything we can imagine. Lord, help us to think creatively and with new imagination as we seek to reach out to our community, surrounding communities with your love. Thanks for this plan. We pray that you would bless it, that you would guide us as we move forward. And may 5 years from now, may we say, wow, as we look back and remember, we see your faithfulness and your power in this church. Thanks for all who serve this church, for these retiring board members, and for so many people who make this church run from day to day. We are grateful for them. So God, thank you. Bless us. And we give you praise in Christ's name. Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Yeah.
For your attention.